What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the UFC MMA show for RunPureSports.com. I'll be your host, Red Kachik, and I'm joined tonight by Titletown. So, pretty fun card we got this week, which we'll be breaking down fight by fight. As usual, I want to recap a little bit of last week because I think our guy Title had a pretty good call on Font, taking the underdog and taking the win there. So I'll kick it to you first, man. Congrats on the call. He just fit so many lineups. I ended up with 100% of them, and I know we got screwed with a late scratch a minute after lock. So I'm sure some subscribers were a little bit pissed about that. But I mean, the font fight was key, man, because obviously you're not gonna plug in a bunch of a heavy overweight underdog like that, and so good call there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It doesn't always work out. It feels nice when it does. He definitely got steamed a little higher than I thought. Came in at 30%. Yanez was still more popular, but yeah, it felt good. It's a hit one. And then I was out at the bar. I was drinking, and the more and more the drinks were going down, the more confident I felt in Izzy. So I laid the hammer on Izzy as well. And what a fight that was. So yeah, it was a good week last week. The cancellation was brutal. People are getting frustrated in MMA. I get it. There was late swap. They didn't know how to handle that. Now fights are getting canceled. Usually it's not like this. It really isn't. It's a rare occurrence. Doesn't feel like it as of late. And there's nothing you can do. Sometimes they go your way. Sometimes they don't. Fortunately, had a bunch of Williams. But yeah, last week was fun. And this week, man, 14 fights. And it's crazy for DFS. Only 4 favorites that are over -200. None are over -300. And what that means is you can leave a bunch of salary on the table. Like, I've never said this in my life, but if I saw 6 winners that were all underdogs on the optimal lineup, I would not be completely shocked. I'm not building for that by any means, but with all these close ones, like you got a 60, I think she's like 6,900. Denise Gomes plus 130 at 6,900, which just shows these odds are crazy for the price. Leaving salary is fine on this table. It's a crazy one in DFS, and cards like this, I mainly pick out certain fights that I want to be overweight on. I don't care as much about getting the winners right. It's really hard to get 14 coin flip pretty much fights right. Target fights you think will be high scoring. I like getting overweight on both sides, and I like targeting fights I think will be a little more boring and being underweight that way. But we'll go fight by fight like usual. I'll get my predictions, but that's the overview of the card.
Yeah, when I was putting my sheet together, it was pretty nasty. So the round 1, round 2, round 3 odds didn't come through, so I had to manually load them, and inside the distance was pretty terrible. And honestly, I think it'll be interesting to talk through a couple of these guys because obviously with the main card being or the main fight being Holloway and Allen, and there's a few other ones where the underdog has a pretty strong record, and maybe it's just the fighters that they face. But I mean, like Holloway is number 2 and Allen is number 3 in their weight class. So I feel like there's some fights where like you said, it's not like some crazy favorites, but overall, I think some of the dogs are very live on this card. Probably way more so than some of the prior fights this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we see a lot of dogs bark. I mean, we look at last week's card for MMA. There was a lot of dogs that came through, and when Williams went down, there wasn't a lot of high scores. Like, I think there was 3, maybe even 4 underdogs that were on the optimal lineup in the $15. It was Sam Hughes, Garcia. I know Izzy was on there. There really wasn't big favorites there. People put up big scores. So last week, I didn't see that coming. I didn't think it was a card to leave too much salary. Yeah, this card, you can leave 1,000 and feel just fine with how the odds are. So, yeah, it's a fun one.
All right, let's kick it to the first fight. I think I got everything laid out right. So we got Lucy Putalova facing Jocelyn Edwards. So Putalova is a 55% favorite, so 55-45, pretty close as far as odds go. She's at 8,600 and Jocelyn's at 7,600. So again, kind of a mid-range fight. Inside the distance is pretty awful, about 20%, 15% for each of them respectively. I mean, besides the overall card and where lineup construction kind of falls, obviously both of these fighters kind of fit that mid-range. Neither one is like super appetizing. I guess Lucy's a little bit under-owned relative to that range, but there's really not a lot of upside from what I can tell, even at 8,600. So I don't know if you want to break down the fight a little bit further, but ownership is pretty close. 17% for both is what I got it at. And like I said, I think just at 17% for a favorite, even though it's slight, Lucy is probably the slight leverage spot. But like I said, there's some other favorites we can get to as well.
Yeah, I don't really like this fight too much to start it off. You're pretty much a coin flip fight in the women's division. That's the most likely fight to go to decision. If I had to play anyone, it would be Lucy. 8,600. Price doesn't matter as much on this card. Like I said, I'm expecting dogs to come through. Lucy does have a little wrestling upside. I think she'll try to go for some takedowns. I think this fight will be fought a lot in the clinch against the fence, just both turning each other at range. Jocelyn Edwards is a primary striker, pretty good striker herself. She does throw a lot of kicks, probably has a striking advantage. Don't think she has the power to knock out Lucy, though. I don't see 10 plus minutes of control time or multiple takedowns for Lucy. Again, if I played anyone in this fight, it would be her, since I do think she has more upside. But yeah, this is a fight I'm not going to have much of. 20 entry and below, it's probably a full fade for me. And yeah, like I said, I'm targeting certain fights more than certain winners on this card. This is a boring fight. I don't think it'll be optimal. Some other ones I think will be optimal. Don't know who the winner is. This is more of a full fade for me.
Okay. Yeah, I can get behind that. It just doesn't look like there's going to be a ton of scoring. So we can move to the next fight. We got Gaston Bolanos facing Aaron Phillips. Gaston is the favorite, 63% favorite over Phillips, 9,200 for Gaston and 7,000 for Aaron Phillips. So again, like even the dogs are close to, a 1/3 chance of winning. They're close to 40% odds. So some of these dogs at 7K are not the worst. Again, I think because the scoring looks so rough for this top range, like there's no strong favorites. Gaston still looks under-owned. He's going to have the best inside the distance number besides, I guess, Quarantillo, which we'll get to in one of the last fights. So I guess there I'd probably just go take the leverage and go to Gaston. I mean, neither one's going to be very owned. Looking at 23% for Gaston Bolanos and 13.5% for Phillips. But I just don't see it. I mean, technically the leverage would be on Phillips, but if he's only 23% at 9,200, I'll try to jam him in.
Yeah, I think this fight's on her own. I'll be overweight on both guys, and there's so many question marks when you just break down this fight. Not even talking DFS wise, we haven't seen. Bolanos is making his UFC debut. Hasn't fought in about a year. He has fought in Bellator though, so he fought in a big promotion. Just a striker, 6-3. All 6 wins have come by knockout. Loves spinning techniques. Very good Muay Thai. He's good when it's on the feet. Now he looks pretty lost when it is on the ground. Someone does take him down. Really doesn't have much to offer there, so he needs to keep it on the feet when he does. Very live for a KO, and always watch those spinning techniques. He loves his spinning elbow. He's got multiple knockouts by that. As far as Aaron Phillips, I mean, there's even more questions on this guy. We haven't seen him in about 3 years. I didn't even know he was still in the UFC, to be honest. He took the fight on short notice against Jack Shore, got submitted in the second round last time out. He was in the UFC for 2 fights back in 2014, lost both by unanimous decision, 2 got cut. I don't really know what this guy's up to. I think he owns a gym or something like that. Don't know how much he's training himself. He didn't make weights. There's so many unknowns in this fight. There's so many unknowns with Bolanos. He's making I wouldn't say is the biggest step up in competition, but I just don't know what Aaron Phillips is going to show up. Bolanos hasn't really fought good competition. Aaron Phillips, man, who knows what to expect from this guy. If he gets takedowns, he is a black belt in BJJ. Not all black belts are created equal, but maybe he can do something down there. Otherwise, I lean Bolanos to get the knockout. But again, with how many question marks are on this fight, not seen a guy in 3 years, not seen a guy in 1 year. You're talking the ownership. It looks pretty under-owned for me in a fight that's supposed to finish. So, yeah, this is a fight I'll be overweight on, probably both sides.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where all the ownership's going. I guess obviously the last fight there's a ton, and
it's going later in the card. Holloway Arnold fight, Billy Q Barboza, Cutelaba fight will get some. It's mainly not these first couple fights.
Yeah, so I got Gaston pretty high in my rankings, just off of his inside the distance number looks really solid, his ownership looks low, and then it's just a matter of fitting him in. But yeah, he's definitely one of the highest that I project based on all things considered. So I mean, Aaron Phillips has a little bit of leverage. It's just the upside. I think there's so much more if you're going to take a favorite at low ownership. So, all right, we can move on to the next one. It sounds like you're pretty balanced between. I mean, you're going to have both sides just because of the win equity. And not knowing what Aaron Phillips is going to do, but you'll have more Gaston, I assume.
Yeah, I'll have more Bolanos for sure. But yeah, like you said, I mean, he's going to be double the ownership or something like that. I'll like you said, you're talking about a 7K fighter that's plus 160. I mean, you never see. Usually that's a 7,600 fighter on normal cards. This card's unlike any other with so many closely lined fights. So yeah, that's why I said we can see multiple dogs come through. And if Phillips wins, I mean, he has all the upside in the world. If he gets on the ground, he could be levels above. We just don't know what we're seeing from this Aaron Phillips guy. And I like taking on the variance and high variance fights in a sport like this.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's guys that are cheaper than him that are going to have similar win odds. I mean, like the worst dog is at a 30% win rate. So I mean, you're literally 1 out of 3 fights they're going to win, and he's 6,700 at Clay Guida. So
yeah, it's a crazy card.
Yeah, I mean, just the dogs aren't really dogs. I mean, we've seen dogs where they're like 18% chance of winning, and they're 6,700. So it's it's not a stretch to get down here and think like they do have a real chance to win. But again, like if you look at the favorites, there's still leverage spot because I think people view that and they're going to build pretty balanced. They're not going to jam in the expensive people. So we can go to the next fight. We got Bruna Brazil and Denise Gomez. Brazil is a 58% favorite, priced at 9,300. Denise Gomez is at 6,900, 42%. So pretty close between the two of them, and pretty far in terms of pricing. So I don't see. I mean, the ownership probably is pretty fair for Bruna Brazil, but for Denise, I mean, at 16%, you got 42% win odds. I mean, you've seen the same thing. I know inside the distance doesn't look good, but if you can jam in her at, I mean, nearly even odds, that's pretty strong. Neither one grayed out terribly well for me, but still, just like viewing it at 6,900, 42% chance of winning, I have to have some shares.
I think everyone's going to do that, though, which makes me go on the flip side and not want it as much. Because like you said, I don't love the upside. I don't know if I'll quite get to the fade. 20 entry max. Right now I have it in the playbook. It's already done. I'll put it up on the site after. I have this whole fight is underweight. And everything you said with Gomes, I mean, yeah, like you said, 6,900 and plus 130. But if she gets 70, like on this card with how many dogs we have, I think we see big scores from, I think, multiple dogs come through. And I don't want 70 at 6,900, especially. I wouldn't be surprised to see her ownership creep up to like 20% just because people see the odds, people see the price, and it's supposed to go to decision. So her floor is even higher. I think she could get steamed a little bit. And I want upside, and I just don't love her upside in this fight. I have more interest in Brazil in this one. She's making her UFC debut, coming off a Contender Series. She hasn't fought anyone really before Contender Series, but man, I was impressed with her striking. She has pop on her shots. She had a sick head kick KO. Dana White absolutely loved it. She's 4 inches taller in this one. I think it's a 4-inch height advantage, 2-inch reach advantage. Gomes is small for the division. If this fight's at range, I think Brazil can piece her up. Gomes is going to have to she's going to have to collapse the distance. And if she does that, she can get hit hard. And Brazil does have pop. Gomes is tough, though, which is why I think more than likely it is a decision, which is why I have underweight. You don't want a decision at 9,300. But if there was a knockout, I think it is Brazil. I think she is the stronger fighter, better striker. Gomes maybe will try and mix in takedowns. I'm not sure how much success she will have, though. But, yeah, I don't love this fight too much. I think it goes to decision. If there is a finish, I think Brazil is the one that knocks her out, and I think Gomes comes in higher owned than her. So I lean Brazil in this fight, but if you have none of it at the end of the day, I think you're doing it fine too.
Yeah, it's a little bit perplexing for me because I see the highest owned is going to be the two people that have basically the best record. So Arnold Allen in a 5-round makes sense. He's at 31% is what I got him at, and obviously he has a good record. So like if people look at that, and with 5 rounds, it makes sense that he would be the highest owned, under 7,500. The next one is Azamat Murzakanov.
Yeah, you got
it. And he's at 22%. So like still, they're not like crazy high owned. None of these down here are. So I'm kind of confused that a 6,900 fighter, was still, again, we'll just call it 40%. It's a pretty strong chance of winning at, sub 20%. So even, I mean, the other dogs, they have a stronger chance of winning from prior cards, but I still view it as like, they're still dogs, and you probably don't want to have 4+ of them.
Yeah, I would have 4 as the max on this, but
it doesn't make sense though from an ownership perspective.
I think she'll be about 20. I think Murzakanov might be like 17. I think that's a little high for him. I think these dogs down below do all kind of get similar exposure though. But I think Gomes is probably the third. I think TJ Brown probably is a little higher owned, but I think she comes in about third. And people in cash games, people are going to look at it. People are probably going to she'll be a popular dog there. People are just going to see plus 130 at 6,900. I think optimizers are going to jam it because it could fit in other stuff.
Should, yeah. I aggregate projections, and I have her as the highest projected one besides Murzakanov, and everyone else she's higher than except for Allen, who's just in a 5-round fight. So it doesn't make sense. So I'm with you. I think ownership's going to go up. It has to. It doesn't make sense. Optimizers will jam her, and again, just the odds are people are going to want to. If you're hand building. If I'm hand building, if I'm going to go down and have 7K left, I'll probably play her.
Yeah, and I think most people will.
So, right. So I'm with you. I'm just basically agreeing that the ownership that I spit out at 17% does seem like stupid low. So
I look at other stuff, but just because how long we played, how long I see what other people do with stuff like that. Like I make a lot of manual adjustments, and it was just. She was one of them that came, and I looked at other people's. I was like, man, just that's where people are going to go. You're below 7K. Like people aren't going to go Clay Guida. People aren't going to go. Who else is all the way down there? I mean, at Herman, people aren't really going to play. Some people, like Pedro Munoz, people aren't really going to play. Like it just you naturally just go up. You check odds and you go there.
Yeah.
So.
You leave salary to get down to her if you had to. Just from a Vegas standpoint, people love that angle. Extra 10 percentage points makes a difference in people's heads. So that's also why MMA is so good. And I know you talk about it quite a bit is with MMA, especially the volatility, getting the exposures right in multi-entry is key to success, or a very strong addition to a key to success.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So next fight, Daniel Zellhuber and Lando Vanata. Zellhuber. Oh God, I can't have that right. The odds are terrible. You have to quote me the odds because they can't both be like 40 and 30.
Minus 125. Minus 125 for Zellhuber, plus 100 for Lando.
Okay, so it is pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Okay, perfect. Then I'm in the ballpark. At 8,500, 7,700, I'm still thinking of old fights. It has to be a different spread. So.
This card is weird, man.
It's just wild. Even inside the distance, like I said, I was throwing those in there. I was like, it can't be 9,200 or 9,300, 20% favorite inside the distance. Like, there's no way. So, okay. So Zellhuber's at 8,500, Lando's at 7,700. That would probably change a little bit. Inside the distance is pretty strong at 8,500. Probably one of the better values. If you look at finishing for Zellhuber. So across the board, again, their ownership looks pretty close at 17 to 18%. So we'll just call it, high teens. Don't see much. I mean, there's not much leverage between the two. Again, with it being balanced and the field, the overall fighters all being pretty close. I have Zellhuber with a slight edge in terms of leverage. And it's mainly because the inside the distance number is probably better than those around him. So I'll let you break down this fight. But again, you'll have a better idea of which fights you think are just going to be slow or which ones are just worth fades. But from an ownership perspective, it's going to be tough because you're just going to have to take stands, and Vegas is going to be pretty close, and ownership looks like it's going to be pretty close. So.
Yeah, this is a fight I'm going to take a stand on for 20 entry and below. I'm going to have no Daniel Zellhuber, and there's no other reasoning behind. If you watch his last fight, dude was minus 350, minus 400 against Trey Ogden, who's not very good, just got pieced up last week. And the dude absolutely did not throw anything. He pulled a William Knight Jr. as a minus 400 favorite. It was the most tilting thing to watch. He is only 23. It was his UFC debut. There are, if he came out and he threw more volume and he looked different than last fight and he broke the slate, sure. I'm not going to completely fade in 150 max. But, man, I can't put my hard-earned money on this guy who absolutely did nothing for 15 minutes and just stood there and stared at a guy. And that guy was worse than he's fighting this week. Lando Vanata is definitely better than Trey Ogden. I need my guy to throw some volume. He doesn't throw volume from what I've seen in his one fight. If it beats me, it beats me. It's really hard to find fades you feel confident on this card. He made it easy from what he did last fight for me. So, yeah, no Zellhuber. And if I'm going to have no Zellhuber, at least got to have some Lando Vanata. I don't love this fight's upside. There's a lot of other fights, especially later. I like the upside more. But, yeah, Vanato's a junkyard dog. I think he can try. I think he'll try and mix in his wrestling. Zellhuber has shown pretty good takedown defense, but hasn't really had he hasn't had a wrestler like Lando really test him. And man, on the ground, when Zellhuber does get taken down, he doesn't look too great. He's definitely a primary striker. So if Lando can mix in takedowns, his grappling solid, maybe some top control there, 7,700. I'm picking him to win. He's the more active fighter. If he can mix those in, maybe he gets 85, something like that. Again, you don't love 85 at 7,700, but you'll definitely live. And if I'm having no Zellhuber, it only makes sense to get some Lando. So, yeah, Lando's my pick to win. I'm not getting a Zellhuber. I'll take the 800 savings.
Okay, I like it. All right, we'll move to the next fight. We got Jillian Robertson and Pierre Rodriguez. Another close fight, but the pricing's a little bit closer, so it makes sense. 53% for 53% chance of winning for Jillian. 8,200, and Pierre is at 8,000. Overall ownership a bit higher here. So we got 23% I got for Jillian Robertson, and Rodriguez is at 20%. So one of the higher owned fights, and I assumed similar to last week. We talked about this, and this, I forget the two fighters at 8,200 and 8K that we talked about, but I know I got the wrong side of it.
Chris Curtis and Gaslam.
Yeah, so I think, was it Gaslam that won?
Gaslam won.
Yeah, so I think I took Curtis, and he was at 8K, and I think because lineup construction basically fell right at like 8,100, and I couldn't get to him. So
yeah,
I threw him in there. Odds weren't terrible, and that was very costly. It's still cash, but those lineups obviously got hurt, and it just had to do with pricing. So I think ownership here is a lot to do with, because the pricing. This fight's going to fall into 50% of lineups. So it's basically what they're calling for. So overall, as far as any leverage, again, it's pretty much even between the two of them. So I think the fighting, 33% inside the distance for Robertson, 27% for Rodriguez. I don't know how you get any closer in terms of fight quality. It's very different. I guess you can break it down in terms of this, though, because it looks like Robertson's submission number is much higher. KO is much higher for Rodriguez. So they're definitely different styles. So I guess it's depending on what side you want to be on. Is one going to be a stand-and fight, or are they going to get to the ground?
Yeah, it's literally exactly, you nailed it. That's why I have a lot of interest in this fight. That's why other people do. Like, even if this fight was priced 8,600, 7,600, let's say, I would still be overweight on both girls. Again, pricing doesn't mean as much for me on a slate like this, but like the winner of this could have the most points on DraftKings at the end of the night, and I would not be completely shocked. It's clash of styles. Jillian Robertson needs the fight on the mat. Her grappling is very good. Her offensive takedowns aren't very good. She'll pull guard if she has to. She just needs the fight on the ground. And when it is, it's her world. First round submission, very live. Pierre Rodriguez, on the other hand, she needs it on the feet. Good striker, has power. If she keeps it on the feet, she is going to knock out Jillian Robertson. This is a fight, like I said, I'm targeting certain fights this week, fading certain fights more so. This is a fight I want a lot of. I said, I knew before the week, whoever was the dog money, I was going to pick. Right now, Pierre Rodriguez is a slight dog, so I'll take the plus money on her. I usually prefer the grapplers in a fight like this than the strikers, but usually the grapplers, at least when I prefer them, they do have good offensive wrestling where I feel confident the fight will hit the mat. That's not the same with Jillian Robertson. Her offensive takedowns aren't good. She does get one, though. Could be GG. That's why I'll have plenty of Robertson. I'll say Pierre Rodriguez keeps it on the feet. She's more physically strong. And if it's on the feet, Robertson's in a lot of trouble. So love targeting clash of styles. I think this fight finishes one way or the other. I'll pick Pierre Rodriguez by knockout. But it's a fight I'll have both sides for sure.
Okay, perfect. All right, we can move on to the next fight. So this one is the biggest green line that I got. So I'm curious your take here. But Zach Cummings is the most expensive fighter on the slate at 9,600. Again, from prior fights, the win odds he's at 66%. So not the highest. I mean, I don't know what we saw last week or the week before, but I'm assuming it was over 80% for some of those fighters that are at this price. So
last week was minus 450, minus 500. It got to Gilbert Burns.
Okay. We see some pretty strong ones. I believe it was a couple weeks ago where it was some skinny white guy, and I can't remember, but he had to be like minus 800. Like it was something ridiculous.
That's the thing with DraftKings pricing though. We're doing like 8,200. Like they will not price anyone the same price. Like it's 8,200 AK, 83.79, 84. Like that is their pricing algorithm. It's all based on odds. So it doesn't matter if it's minus 2,000 or minus 275 is the biggest favorite on the card. They're going to get up to 9,600 regardless, which is why there's a big edge on this one. I mean, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So ownership wise, I got them evenly split at 15%. Again, ownership just seems super spread out, and maybe that changes with updates tonight or tomorrow morning. But yeah, Zach Cummings, 67%. We'll call it win odds, $9,600. Ed Herman at 6,600, 34% win odds. Inside the distance, honestly, pretty close. We got 33% for Cummings, 17% for Herman. So I say it close just based on the odds. Like it's pretty relative there, but it's a huge difference. I mean, if you're looking at the best favorites on the slate, and again, it's relative to the slate, Cummings is severely underowned. I have him as the highest leverage spot on the slate in total. So Bolanos was up there, but Cummings takes the cake. He's going to be hard to fit. You would obviously have to fit in 3 dogs, and they're not the worst dogs in the world. But yeah, I have Cummings pretty high. I have Herman as an under leveraged spot at 6,600. Again, he's super cheap, so maybe optimizers find a way to jam him in. But Cummings all the way for me.
Yeah, I'm picking
out on this show. You would love this guy.
This is the both of these guys. I don't know how this is a fight in the UFC. I really don't. It's gross. I mean, 42-year-old Ed Herman. I thought he got cut last fight. It's been almost 2 years since we've seen Ed Herman, and yeah, I thought he lost to Alonzo Menafield. He was on one leg pretty much the whole fight. He got his calf kicked to death. I can't believe he survived 15 minutes. The dude is tough, no doubt. He's gritty. It's time to hang it up for him, though. I think this is probably his last fight. 42-year-old, I mean, he doesn't really have much to offer. Zach Cummings on the other side, dude's 38. We haven't seen this guy in 3 years. He was fighting at middleweight, now moves up to light heavyweight. On the scales, he doesn't look very strong. I'll just leave it at that. Didn't look very good. Don't know what he's been doing the last 3 years. I think this is going to be a boring fight. They're staring at each other. They stand at distance, probably for 15 minutes. I don't see the score. I don't see a big optimal performance in this one. I won't have much of it at all. If I did pick one, it would be Zach Cummings for the fact Vegas still likes him. I cannot pick at Ed Herman at this point. Ed Herman is tough, though. He has been finishing 9 in his 15 fights, so you definitely can put him away. He is pretty tough, though. And looking at Zach Cummings with his 3-year layoff, I don't know if this dude's finishing anyone in the division right now. Like, I'm just not confident in him walking to the octagon. But Ed Herman's cheeks, and there's no way I'm picking Ed Herman in 2023 either. So Cummings is the pick. I want this to be a boring fight, though. I won't have much of it.
Yeah, I just pulled up their pictures because it's on Topology, man, and both these guys look retired. Honestly, I don't know how old the pictures are for either of them, but Cummings looks terrible.
I mean, Cummings looks terrible, and Ed Herman. Both of these guys might be dropping the gloves after this fight. I wouldn't be surprised one bit.
Yeah, so I can see your point. It wouldn't be super aggressive. Like, I mean, how much in the tank can they have after round one, anyways? So
yeah.
If
they can both get out of here and not be exhausted after 15 minutes and both agree pre-fight to survive and walk out fine, I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for at least.
I mean, I don't know where they get this money earned, but it shows Cummings is at 130K career disclosed earnings, and Herman's at 900K. So I don't know what the dude's been fighting. Obviously, isn't making a living off of fighting.
He's been fighting a lot. He has definitely been. I mean, Ed Herman. I wouldn't use the word legend by any means for Ed Herman, but yeah, when you've been doing it for as long as him and you're still getting the job done, as if that's all you've done for your whole life is be a professional fighter and you're still getting it done at 42, I ain't hating on you, but
yeah. No, I'm talking about Cummings at 130K career earnings. Like he's doing this part-time.
Yeah, no, there's no way. Yeah, he's got a job on the other hand. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. That's rough. I would take the dog in that in Vegas from a Vegas standpoint, just by looking at him. But
for betting, it's definitely dog or pet. Take the plus money and run if you're doing it. No doubt. I cannot lay that on Cummings. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't love the upside on Herman. Like I will hardly have any of this.
I got you. No, it makes sense. You can see it going slow. You can see it going slow. or just a quick round one knockout or something dumb that someone falls on someone's fist. So
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a Chris Barnett spinning wheel kick before, and a guy
get
that
it
does
done in 10 seconds.
Yeah, so
all right, we can move on to the next fight. Yeah, I mean, I have Cummings leverage a lot, but it looks ugly. I'll have to play some, but
yeah.
I need to remove these pictures.
I'll have some too for that reason, because I agree. He'll probably be under-owned for his chance at the optimal.
Yeah.
But because I dig into the, like, when I before I even look at ownership and all this stuff, I already have a picture in my mind how the fight's going to go, who I like and all that. When I pulled this up, I can just see them staring at each other. I said bathroom break fight is how I see it, but ownership-wise, game theory-wise, I get the leverage on
yeah.
them.
All right, we go to the next fight. Fight 7. It is Matthews.
Mateus Nicolau.
Mateus, thank you. Mateus Nicolau is at 65% over Brandon Royval. He's at 7,100, 35% chance. So this fight, let's take a peek at it. Again, some of the stronger inside the distance numbers for both fighters, actually. So 37% chance for Nicolau, and Royval's at 26.5%, we'll call it. I mean, so should finish. I mean, honestly, the odds are that this is one of the few fights that are going to finish inside the distance. Ownership-wise, Nicolau is extremely popular. 28% is what I got him at. Royval at 17%. I still see a little bit of leverage, I guess, on Nicolau. Again, just from an inside the distance number, he gets a boost, but it's still not as high as a lot of the other fighters. So I would call this probably pretty fair in terms of leverage. I mean, 28% is going to be the third highest or fourth highest on the slate. So I'll let you break this one down. He's probably, again, I mean, the ownership projections are pretty good and basing a lot of it off of pricing and what gets fit into optimal builds. So I could see at 9,100, he's just an easy one as a favorite to play. And maybe he's your most expensive fighter. And then you kind of litter the mid-range. So again, decent odds, 65%, but you're certainly paying a price in terms of ownership. So I'll let you break down the fight a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think rightfully so, though. I think this whole fight, as our boy Matty Ice in here, he said fight of the night. I definitely could see this being fight of the night. Anytime Brandon Royval, you see his name. There's a couple guys on here where you just see their one name. It doesn't matter who the opponent is fighting. We'll get to a couple of those later. I'll always have interest in DFS. Brandon Royval's an absolute wild man. He walks forward. He likes to mix in his grappling. He has a very good submission game, throws good volume, very wonky on the feet, very wonky movement, but he'll make it a war. He's always in fun fights. And just the opposite of Mateus Nicolau, he's been known as a boring fighter, very, very skilled, wherever the fight goes, 5 KOs, 5 submission wins, but he's fine being more passive and counter-punching, not putting himself in a firefight. And I don't think Brandon Royval is going to let him do that, which is why I love this fight so much. And I like Nicolau in this spot. I feel good about him. Man, I just think he's the better all-around fighter. I think on the mat, he can hang with Royval. On the feet, I think he has more power. He's more technical. He's more crisp. And I don't have to worry about it being a boring fight because I think Royval will take the fight to him. I think he'll get lit up. I think it'll be counter-punching for days for Mateus Nicolau. Don't really see this fight hitting the ground too much. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. Like I said, Royval's got a good submission game. Mateus Nicolau's got a good submission game as well. But I think Nicolau has success on the feet, can keep it there. And I think he does knock out Royval at some point. But if Royval wins this fight, he could be the highest scoring guy on the slate, regardless of price, period. That's how fun this fight goes. That's how Royval fight goes. So that's why I like this fight a lot. But yeah, I think Nicolau knocks him out. Yeah,
Nicolau looks pretty balanced. I mean, he's got a 24% chance of a KO within the round 2 and 20% of submission within round 2. So like, it sounds like he could do either or. He could stand and take punches and give punches, or he can get it to the ground and take a submission as well. So
yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah,
Royval's a good fighter too, but yeah, I like Nicolau a lot.
So this is one of the few that would stand out as like the favorite. Looks probably underappreciated a bit, just in the balance of the fighter. So I think I'm with you there. And again, I think to pricing, I haven't built any lineups, but at 9,100, I can just see the way the rest of the card is. 9,100 is probably going to be a first in or a second in.
And, the nice thing is Holloway's 100 less. So some builds might start with Holloway, but because we have all these dogs on the card, like, yeah, you can easily start Nicolau, Holloway, and especially because we're talking like Zach Cummings. Like, people aren't going to get to him at 9,600. Some people are going to get to Rafa at 95. 94 Gutierrez, don't think he gets as much. So yeah, there's only so many in the 9K range that people that's actually standing out to people too. And Nicolau is definitely one of them. So yeah, he'll be owned, but rightfully so. I'm good eating chalk on certain fights that I already like. There's plenty of ways to always get different.
He's still, I mean, he's chalk for the slate, but he's still not going to be like 45%, which we've seen as like a 7,700 value or something where they really bomb out. But yeah, I mean, you're still sub 30%, which has been kind of like the chalk threshold the last couple of weeks has been like 32 to 38%, something like that. So yeah, he's a good spot to target if you can jam him in. Because again, even in the mid 8K range, you're not like, if you could somehow take an extra dog and get off of, a couple that we're about to talk about, but any of the in the 8Ks that are like 55%, the extra 10% win odds sound pretty good.
Yeah.
So and inside the distance looks good, so there's some upside there. So we can go to the next fight. We got Bill Algeo, and he's fighting TJ Brown. 63% chance for Algeo, and he's at 8,800. Brown is at 7,400. It looks like a pretty uneven fight. Just looking through like inside the distance and like round one, round two odds, you got about a 30% chance of inside the distance for Algeo. Ownership pretty high on Algeo, and at 8,800 it makes sense. I don't see any leverage, so they're just like, if you can fit him in, that's fine, but he's not a spot that I would really target as trying to go overweight. So I'm curious your take.
Yeah, it's a great fight to target. Like I said earlier in the card when I was saying fades, underweight, fight stuff like that, the higher we go up, the fights become very good to target in DFS. Bill Algeo is one of those guys. Like I just mentioned the last fight with Brandon Royval. When you see Bill Algeo's name, you know you're going to be in for a war. He comes forward. He throws good volume. He's constantly moving. He's just constantly doing something, which always leads to DFS points on both sides. Now, this fight opened up minus 139, plus 119 Bill Algeo. And Algeo's taking a lot of money. He's now sitting at about minus 200. I think those opening odds were right. And now I think TJ Brown's getting a little disrespected. TJ Brown, he's a wrestler at the end of the day. On the feet, he's solid too, but he likes to mix in wrestling a lot. When he gets it down there, his grappling solid. He has solid top control. The problem is he can gas, though, as fight goes on. He does slow down a little bit. Averages 3.62 takedowns per 15 minutes. And Bill Algeo, his biggest weakness is his takedown defense. Only 54% on 46 attempts. Now, he does have a good get-up game. We saw Andre Fili control him in the third round last fight for the whole round. I think he said he broke his arm to start the third round or something like that too, though. So probably is part of the reason why. But man, if TJ Brown is going to get takedowns, which I feel very confident he's going to have success getting takedowns. I think he has success very early as well. I just think this line's off now. When you're talking Bill Algeo is one of the top, the highest owned people on the slate. I think TJ Brown offers good leverage off of him. I'll still have Bill Algeo for sure because he's a high-paced fighter. TJ Brown can slow down. He can be looking at a third-round finish and a big boy score with the way he fights. But TJ Brown could also come here, get 5 takedowns, get 8 minutes of control time, and I wouldn't be surprised one bit against one of the highest-owned fighters on the card. So, yeah, I'll take the dog. I think the price is a little disrespectful now after the buy. 7,400 TJ Brown has all the upside as well, but it's a great fight to target. But I'm on the dog.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Kind of like your font take last week. So the dog
not as confident as the font take. I will say.
Well, just from a bad line almost, I guess, right? Like you really thought font was the favorite, and you're not saying Brown's the favorite, but you think it should be a closer spread between the two. It's just been juiced up since the lines open. So it's similar in that regard. All right, we can go to the next fight. Fight number 9: Rafa Garcia versus Clay Guida. We got a 70-30 split, 70% favorite for Garcia. He's at 9,500, so the second highest on the slate. And Guida is 6,700, so the second cheapest on the slate. Ownership-wise, we are looking at 26%, so he's going to be one of the highest owned 9K from the looks of it, Rafa Garcia. Inside the distance doesn't look great. So, I mean, he's under 30% chance. It looks like he would do it through submission over a KO, which could, I guess, add to the scoring for control time and takedowns. Overall, I don't see much in terms of leverage from the ownership. This would be a fight that I would want to play the Rafa Garcia side at about probably the field average. I wouldn't want to go overweight or try to go underweight for sure. And then Guida is probably going to be an underweight spot. I mean, 6,700. I don't think I need to go there. Going to have the worst odds on the slate for a dog. You can't play every dog. Probably be out on Guida. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing similar to what you are. The thing about this fight is it's like you're talking about Rafa's inside the distance line and stuff. Wrestling and top control is what this guy does. So even if it goes to decision, if he is the better wrestler in this fight, he could still put up a big score even in a decision. The problem is both these guys are wrestlers. I mean, Clay Guida is a legend, 41 years old, still getting the job done. But man, Rafa Garcia to me is just a younger version of Clay, 28 years old. Clay Guida's 41. You look at their takedowns. Clay Guida's average 3.27 takedowns per 15 minutes. Rafa Garcia 4.24. Both have shown solid takedown defense, though. 73% for Clay Guida throughout his career, 76% for Rafa Garcia. How usually these fights go? Two primary wrestlers go at it. Either the wrestling negates each other and stays on the feet for 15 minutes, which I wouldn't be shocked if that happens, if both guys just have the takedown defense. I think more so Clay Guida. I think Rafa Garcia will shoot for more takedowns than Clay, but if his takedown defense holds up, we could see 50 minutes of striking, and you won't want that fight in your lineups. Or when we have the same style, we just see one guy way more dominant than the other when it comes to it. I think that would be Rafa Garcia, if so. And if he's just a way better wrestler than Clay at this point, you could see 5 takedowns, 10+ minutes of control time, an absolutely dominating performance. Like you said, this is not a fight I want to go way overweight or way underweight because I don't know which way it's going to go. Could easily be a dud, could easily go the other way. I think somewhere around the field with Rafa Garcia, underweight on Clay Guida. But I mean, in my 150, if Clay's 12% owned and Sabre gives me 12%, even 15%, I'm not going to change my whole script just because I'm getting a couple more Clay Guidas. Rafa Garcia, he is one problem. He had a couple fights ago. I'll never get out of my head why I'm always hesitant now to feel very confident. Rafa Garcia was against Chris Grutzmacher. Round 1, he's putting it on Grutzmacher, and then the dude absolutely just blows his load. No cardio in the second round, no cardio in the third. He was a huge favorite, and he lost that fight. So ever since then, I've been worried about the cardio. He did switch to Team Elevation. His cardio is checked out, so I'm a believer in the cardio now. But, man, if he somehow goes back to that old style, he's gassed after round 1. Clay Guida doesn't gas. He puts it on you. He does have upside. He can mix in his own takedowns that way. But, yeah, I got Rafa Garcia to win. I think his cardio will hold up. I think he does have success with takedowns, does have success with top control. Probably doesn't finish. But, man, Clay Guida's been finished plenty of times by sub. Yeah. 11 losses by submission. Rafa Garcia has multiple subs on his record, 8 of his 14 wins there. So if there is a win, I think it is by sub or decision. I don't see knockout.
Yeah, no, I don't see a knockout either. I mean, it's not. It would be really hard to go overweight. I think on Garcia, Guida wouldn't be hard to go overweight because he's cheap, but you don't want to go overweight. Is kind of my take. But Garcia at 9,500. I mean, the ownership at 26 seems really high. Like I don't know how you get there. I know we disagreed on Bolanos in the Phillips fight. You like the Phillips side a bit, but
no, I lean the Bolanos. If I had to pick one, I'd pick the Bolanos side. I think he has more first round knockout upside.
Right. So for me, I mean, it's going to Bolanos. That's that spot that I would go really overweight, and Garcia would be hard for me to jam in if I'm going to go that direction. So
for me, why I could see myself getting overweight Garcia is I don't love Cummings for 100 more, and I don't love Chris Gutierrez for 100 less. So just in that range alone. The next one you'd go down to is what, 9,300, which is 200. Who's a 9,300 fighter on this card? It's Bruna Brazil, which I don't even love that either. So then you're talking going down to 9,200, which you're talking about Bolanos. But yeah, that 300 right there can make you a little different, or you can leave salary that way. But I don't love the fighters around Garcia as much, which is why I could see myself once I max like Cummings at 10% or whatever it may be, if that's what Sabre gives me, I could see it because of that.
I think we're saying the same thing because I think you would almost set the Garcia Guida max ownership probably close to whatever the projected ownership is and see what it spits out. If it's giving you a little bit more or less of one or the other, you'll probably just fly with it. It sounds like you're not like overly biased one direction, but having some exposure close to the the field is probably the best route. Is probably my take.
Yeah, I don't want this fight beating me anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to take. This isn't the fight I want to take a stand on.
No.
I don't mind having it. Obviously, there's some upside for Garcia, but there's not enough to stand strong behind it. So the next fight is fight number 10, Chris Gutierrez versus Pedro Munoz. 64% for Gutierrez at 9,400. So one of the worst odds in the 9,200 range, or one of the worst odds to price for the $9,200 fighter. And we got 25% inside the distance versus 18% inside the distance for Munoz. So again, it's what, a 7% spread, but I view it as pretty close for having a dog with almost the same, knockout capability, I guess. It's pretty close. It looks like it could go knockout or submission between the two. As far as leverage goes, we're looking at 18% ownership for Gutierrez, 16% for Munoz. I see a little bit of leverage on Gutierrez. I don't love the spot, but it's definitely at 18%, the same way we just talked about Garcia at 26%. There's your leverage. If you want to take a side of a favorite, and again, it comes down to scoring. They could both win, and you need one over the other based on like a 5-point difference or 10-point difference in scoring. So Gutierrez provides some leverage there at 18%. Otherwise, this is really close. I would probably be underweight on Munoz and a little bit overweight, probably 10 percentage points, 5 percentage points over the field on Gutierrez. So I'll let you break it down.
Yeah, this is, as I'm Maddie, I said, leg kick season. I am one of my favorite thing is calf kicks. Is the leg kicks. I'm absolutely in love with them. I think they're the biggest cheat code in MMA. Of course, you need cardio. Of course, you need wrestling. But once that leg is done, the other dude can't do anything. And these are two of the nastiest leg kickers out there. I do think Chris Gutierrez is a little better leg kicker, though, and that's what I'm picking in this fight. I think it stays on the feet for 15 minutes. Pedro Munoz, if you look at his grappling credentials, it's all there. The dude never shoots for a takedown. Can't even expect him to do it in this fight. Don't know why Gutierrez would do anything on the mat either. So I think it stays on the feet for 15 minutes or until someone falls. All Pedro Munoz does is throw leg kicks. I don't think he's TKOing the leg kick champion or one of them in Gutierrez. So Pedro Munoz is a fade for me. If he wins, he scores 65. I don't need 65 on this slate. Feel good about that. As far as Chris Gutierrez, leg kick guy as well, but are you going to TKO another leg kick champion with the same move? You think Pedro Munoz got some counters for that. Gutierrez has better hands, though. Gutierrez is the bigger guy. I think this fight's at range. Gutierrez just throws more volume. He has more power. He pieces him up there. But, man, you can't knock out Pedro Munoz. That dude is very, very tough. I think a 15-minute Gutierrez wins by decision. Don't love this fight in DFS. But like you said, if I'm playing aside, it's definitely Gutierrez because the ownership at his price. And he does have – I mean, he has finishing ability. He's shown that in the last couple fights, but I don't think he's finishing Pedro Munoz.
Okay. Fair enough. We can move to the next one. So I assume from the beginning of the show, you talked about these later fights, and this is going to be one of them. So we got Ian Cutelaba versus Tanner Bozer, 55-45 as far as win breakout between the two. They are priced at 8,400 for Cutelaba, and Bozer's at 7,800. And the inside the distance number here is just it's where you want to go. I assume this is one of the fights that you really want to go overweight on. Both are going to get ownership. We're looking at 25 to 30% and 20 to 25% respectively. And I have their inside the distance numbers of 45% chance for Cutelaba and 31% for Bozer. So it sounds like this fight's going to finish via knockout, and it could be certainly within round 2, possibly in round 1. Outside of that, I think Cutelaba has the leverage if you really want to take the inside the distance and knockout upside. At 8,400, he provides pretty good value. The money line doesn't provide the value, but the knockout potential inside of round 2 is where I'm looking. So I'll let you break it down further, but I'm hoping this is one of the fights you're talking about that you really want to target.
Absolutely. When I say, and like I said, certain names, and you don't even have to look at the other name of the fight. You see a certain name, Ian Cutelaba, that is for this one. You want to target all Ian Cutelaba fights. He has 5 minutes of cardio. After that, he falls off a cliff. And the dude's a wild man in the first round. The dude will spam takedowns for days. He will throw overhand rights. He has power on the feet. His takedowns are good. His wrestling's good. Got some grappling. I mean, the dude is nasty in the first 5 minutes. If he's I'm picking Ion Cutelaba. I am. I don't love going to guys just with first round equity. If he doesn't get him out in the first round and he's starting to slow down a little bit, I'm looking for a live betting spot on Tanner Bozer, and I'll get my money back that way. Of course, I'm going to play some Tanner Bozer, but I'll have a lot of Ion Cutelaba. Easy. If he doesn't look great there, Bozer's still alive in the second round. Hammer Bozer, take some profit that way. Cutelaba lineups will be dead, but that's really how I see this fight. Tanner Bozer's coming down from heavyweight. He was weighed in like a 230, 235 at heavyweight. He was a lighter heavyweight, making his light heavyweight debut. And he looked good on the scale, as Rummy said in chat. He definitely did the weight cut right. The problem with him is he has never had good takedown defense, and he does not have a good get-up game, which means Cutelaba, I have a very, very strong – I mean, I'd be shocked if Cutelaba can't get an early takedown. He's so explosive early. He gets takedowns all the time. I don't care if you're coming down from heavyweight. And when it's on the mat, I think Cutelaba is going to style on him for the first 5 minutes while he's alive and while he's not tired. Yeah. Can finish him with a sub, can ground and pound. I don't think Bozer is really going to be able to get up. Again, if he somehow survives after round one, and it's minus 125 plus 100. Like, it's not a shock if Tanner Bozer wins this fight by any means. But I think he then does it when Cutelaba's tired in the second and the third. He can't get the takedowns. Bozer starts teeing off on him, gets a second or third round finish himself, and gets a big score that way. So, yeah, definitely a fight I love targeting, as all Cutelaba fights are. I'll say Cutelaba gets it down in round one. I think he gets it to the mat early and styles on him. But I'll be looking for a live bet on Bozer after round one if he's still alive.
Perfect. Love it. Yeah, it stands out. I mean, at 8,400 too, he fits a lot of lineups, so that makes a lot of sense on both sides.
I wish he was 9,600 though, and I would still be all overweight on like pricing really means not much for me now. Cummings could be 8,400. This Cutelaba could be 9,600, and that's what I'd want to see.
He's a break the slate play basically. Like any price, he could hit 120 points. So
he has the most. Besides Max Holloway, he landed 400 significant strikes. But besides Holloway, he's got the most upside as anyone.
I gotcha. Yep, perfect. So we're in line there. Let's go to the next fight. So fight 12, Dustin Jacoby versus Azamat Murzakanov. We got a 60-40 split, Jacoby being the favorite. He's at 8,900, and Azamat is at 7,300. Inside the distance, 35%, 25% respectively. And ownership, we're right at 21%. I got them both about the same. A little bit of leverage on both, to be honest. Certainly, Jacoby's got more leverage based on ownership at 21% for a decent favorite at 60%, and inside the distance of over a third. So nothing that really sticks out tremendously. Certainly, is the projections like Jacoby a lot. Obviously, being the favorite makes sense, but I still see him being the better spot to target in terms of leveraging the field would be Jacoby. So, but this is one of the fights too that maybe you can talk about is when you're just looking through the card. Jacoby's ranked 14th and Murzakanov is 21st, but he's undefeated. So I don't know if that has to do with the fighters he's done, if that matters to you at all as far as the record. But it is funny to look at, Jacoby's record, which I assume has been, working himself up to some bigger fights. And Murzakanov has not, being that he's undefeated and has a worse ranking. So hopefully I didn't confuse you there, but I'm curious how you take on the records there, because it is something that I'm sure a lot of listeners look at and think, oh, he's undefeated. What does that mean for my DFS lineups?
Yeah, each record's they're not created equal by any means.
Right.
Like Cheeto Marlon Vera, I think, is like 19-8 record, and the dude's one of the baddest dudes in the world. We just saw some guy a couple weeks ago, probably a month or something ago now. He was 23-0 out of, I can't even remember where it plays. He was like the Dagestanian something. The record was all against guys like janitors. They were like me. And I was like, screw this guy. Like, I'll take the dog. And the dude got 30-27. This guy, he's not as good. I mean, 18-6, Dustin Jacoby's favored over 12-0. Murzakanov. I'm getting Azamat Murzakanov. I was about to combine them. So, for Murzakanov, you can tell that he's fine. He's 12-0, but his UFC debut against Stefan Chukwe, he was losing the first 2 rounds. He didn't throw any volume, and he somehow pulls a flying knee KO out of his ass and wins that fight. So he easily could have lost that. He did look a lot better against Devin Clark as of late. Problem is, and why the line is where it is in this one, I think, is Dustin Jacoby has a 5-inch height and reach advantage. Dustin Jacoby throws very good volume, 5.67 significant strikes per minute, where Murzakanov does not throw good volume. He has power. 9 of his 12 wins have come by knockout. But, man, if this fight's going to stay at range, Jacoby is way longer. Pump the jab. He mixes in a nice calf kick, too. He's going to be the minute winner, no doubt, in this one. You're banking on Murzakanov getting knockdowns because he's not going to compete with the volume. Prior to the UFC, Murzakanov mixed in some takedowns. We haven't seen that so far in the UFC. Maybe he tries it in this one. If he does, I'm worried that he could get gassed, though. And I think Dustin Jacoby, I mean, Cutelaba took Jacoby down like 8 times in the first round. 2018 and all this, Jacoby was always he always stayed safe. He kept making him work, and Cutelaba was absolutely dead after that, where he got a draw. But I don't think Murzakanov is going to have success too much with the wrestling. Pretty much knockout or bust because he's not winning the minutes in this one. Yeah, they're pretty similar in ownership. Definitely give me Dustin Jacoby. I'd be overweight on him and underweight on Murzakanov. There's other dogs that I like more.
Yep, that's exactly where I got. I got about 5% over the field on Jacoby and about 5% under on Murzakanov. So, all right, we can move on to the second to last fight. I
will say that fight too, though. If you don't have any of it, like if you're only playing a couple lineups and you have none of that fight, I don't think you're crazy. Like we're gonna get to these next 2 fights, and if you don't have any of those 2 fights or the Cutelaba fight, I think you might be a little crazy. That fight, I wouldn't call you crazy though. Easily could go to decision. I'll say Jacoby knocks him out, but easily could be Jacoby by decision.
All right. So this fight, fight 13 is Billy Quarantillo versus Edson Barboza. I don't know if there's a ton of line movement on this, but from what I can break it down, so he's at 61% win probability for Quarantillo, and Barboza is at 39%. Quarantillo at 8,700, and then at 7,500 for Barboza. Inside the distance numbers is such a huge spread, and it looks pretty balanced for Quarantillo. Ownership's going to be there. There's really no leverage on Quarantillo, but as far as like staple in your lineups, he looks for like the raw points. You got to go to him. So I'll let you break it down further, but I have no interest in Barboza where it stands. Like I can match the field basically at 15%, pretty low, but at 37%. Quarantillo is going to be really high, but I think he's going to be a staple in most lineups. I mean, you got to kind of have that build structure.
I think he's going to be like 50%. Okay. I mean, Billy Q, he's one of the best fighters when it comes to DFS. You see the name Billy Q, you want to play his fights. The dude, even more than Brandon Royval, he walks forward for 15 minutes, throws a bunch of volume. He's always in your face pumping the jab. He tests cardio for days. Once he feels the other one breaking, he just starts taking over the fight. It's a great fight. It really is. Edson Barboza, he's a stud. Everywhere the fight goes, he's a stud. Good grappling, good wrestling, good striking. Mix it up at all 3 levels. Like there's no knock on Edson Barboza, except that he's 36 years old now, which you don't love. It's what Edson Barboza is. I mean, he's fought really good competition. He's taken some damage now. Has he lost a step at 36 is the question. Because if he hasn't, I think he can beat Billy Q. I think this line should be a little closer. If he's lost a step, Billy Q's going to style on him. But Billy Q is going to have to survive round 1 because Billy Q's a slow starter. He is very hittable. And Edson Barboza, man, he has power. I don't think Billy Q wants to just stand in the pocket with Barboza for 15 minutes. He's going to feel the pain. The big thing for Barboza, he needs to come out here and spam leg kicks. Slow down the movement from Billy Q. Barboza throws awesome leg kicks. He mixes up to the body well. I think Barboza wins round 1 in this fight. I think you could finish Billy Q in round 1, and Billy Q is very tough. So just looking at ownership, I got Billy Q around 50%, Edson Barboza around 17%. From that number, give me the leverage in Edson Barboza in this one. I'll definitely be overweight on him, but I'll be somewhere around the field at 50% on Billy Q too, because I think if he wins, he puts up a big boy score, 8,700. Barboza can win round 1. Hopefully doesn't fall off a cliff. He can win round 2, but the longer the fight goes, the more it benefits Billy Q. I'm going to take the dog, though. I'm going to take the contrarian pick. When I saw the plus money, when I saw 50% to 18%, and I was on the fence with a fight like this, I'll be more overweight on Barboza than I will be on Billy Q, according to the field. So I think Barboza comes out, limits the movement early from Billy Q, mix it to the body. I just do not think Billy Q can stand in front of Edson Barboza. I think Billy Q is going to try and shoot for some takedowns. Barboza's got wrestling chops in his background. And man, Billy Q just doesn't have great takedown accuracy. He's got cardio, so I think he can get him late. I don't think he'll really have success with the wrestling early. And if that's the case, like I said, give me Barboza on the feet in this one. Taking the dog shot, but yeah, like when you see my ownerships, I will have more Billy Q than I will Edson Barboza. But if I have 34% Barboza and 50% Billy Q, that's double the field on Barboza and matching the field with Billy Q. So I hope people understand that. But yeah, I'm going to take the shot on the dog and a huge leverage in DFS. If Barboza wins, one of the highest, chalkiest guys on the slate goes down, half the field goes down, and I think Barboza would put up a big score for that aspect. So give me this fight.
All right, we'll have to get on Sabre to update their projections. It's actually gone down since earlier this afternoon on Billy Q.
What do they have it at?
He was 29.5% earlier. Now he's at 26%.
Wow. Yeah. Give me 20 plus on that. And that's what I mean. I do my own. I think owners, one of the softer sports out there for sure for ownership.
It's a pretty big spread across what I've gathered. So yeah, I'm with you. I got it kind of mid 40s. I can peg it at if we're going to call that really low.
Yeah. No, mid 40s would be.
Yeah. But yeah, I pulled it earlier, 29.5%, and now it's 26. So something's moving.
Not my ownership.
Not the right direction. All right. So last fight of the night, Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. Another really good one. I think that you'll want to target both sides on. Allen looks really strong, but odds are 62% for Holloway, 38% for Allen. I mean, it's a 5-round fight. Inside the distance number is actually pretty good on Holloway. We talked about that last week in the 5-round fight with Pereira. He had really good just because he had knocked out Izzy before. Obviously didn't work out in his favor this time, but it's sometimes interesting to see for a 5-round fight to see inside the distance numbers that high. And they're some of the better inside the distance numbers, and all the other fights around are through 3 rounds. So I find that kind of interesting. So I'm taking it's going to be a fast-ish fight. Ownership-wise, they're both going to get, 40%, 30% respectively. We'll just call it, high 30s as an average. Overall, I don't see any super leverage. I mean, 9K for Holloway sounds like a pretty good spot. But, I mean, Allen at 7,200 seems like a pretty popular dog to get 5 rounds worth of work, ideally. Possibly, I mean, honestly, 40% win odds, money line, and 21% inside the distance. Like, Vegas still gives them respect to hold strong in this fight. So it seems like it's probably closer from a DFS perspective than what Vegas shows it on a money line.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I mean, how this fight goes is, what do you think of Max Holloway at this point of his career? He's only 31 years old, but dude has been doing this for a long, long time. He has taken hella damage. It's what part is he past his prime? Is he still at his prime? Because if it's Max at his prime, there's no chance I can pick Arnold Allen this one. If he's past his prime, maybe Arnold Allen wins, but maybe Max still does win, and that's why I'm coming to this one. It's Max for me. I'm going to have to see him lose to someone other than Alexander Volkanovski. You got to go back all the way to 2013, where Max has lost 4 times since 2013. 3 of them to Alexander Volkanovski. In the first 2, people have Max Holloway winning both those fights. I personally didn't, but they were close fights. Last one, he got styled on. Volk shows why he's pound for pound best in the world. And the other loss was the Dustin Poirier. No shame in that. But man, Arnold Allen, he's coming up, no doubt about it. I don't know if he's on those levels of those guys, though. And what Max Holloway has that Arnold Allen doesn't, it's going back to the Jacoby Murzakanov fight. One guy is going to throw volume. Max Holloway throws volume for 25 minutes. His cardio does not fade. He jabs you to death. He's always doing something. Whereas Arnold Allen can be low volume in multiple of his fights. Lately, he's shown he's been a little more aggressive. What he did to Dan Hooker was nice, but I think he can just be caught staring in a mirror. Holloway doubles him up on strikes, and I just do not see how Arnold Allen is the minute winner in this one. Then it goes, can Arnold Allen knock out Max Holloway? Max Holloway is one of the best chins we've ever seen in the UFC. The dude has never been finished. He's never been knocked out. I think he was submitted once. Never been knocked out. Not even sure if he's been knocked down or what the numbers on that is, but the dude just eats shots like it's nothing. We keep saying, well, one of these days, is his durability going to go? I'm going to have to see it before I see him because he doesn't even look phased by half these shots. If Arnold Allen's getting outpointed per minute and he can't knock out Max Holloway, I don't see how he wins this fight. So, yeah, I'm on Max here. I feel good about Max, and that means I'll be underweight on Arnold Allen. He'll be the most popular dog. Plenty of dogs can win on this card. He comes in, I got him at 33%. I could go 22%, something like that, and feel good about being underweight. And I'll be overweight on Max Holloway. I mean, you got to go back to 2016 against Anthony Pettis, where he landed under 100 significant strikes, and he got a third-round finish in that fight. The dude is volume for days. If it goes 25 minutes, he could easily have 200 significant strikes, whatever it may be. He's got all the upside. He's got all the floor. Max blessed Holloway, gets it done again.
All right, I like it. Just checking the chat. I don't see any questions. Matty Ice seems to be on point with everything you're talking about today, which is good.
Matty.
145 is Max's floor. Perfect. All right. Let's any final thoughts on overall? I don't know if you built anything or any sneak peeks to your playbook that you want to mention to the viewers that we have right now, but any other thoughts that you want to share? Overall, I mean, the fights look pretty balanced, and I think it's just a matter of getting your exposures right. Kind of like we talked about last week. It is a game of there's not any strong guys you got to jam. I think picking your spots of going overweight, controlling your ownership. I don't think we had any clear fades like we did last week. It was just kind of underweight spots. So any other thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, in the playbook, I think I got up to 5 fades, but I make that for 20 entry and below. I won't be fading 5 fighters in 150. I assume most people, like the $3 20 entry max contest, the Haymaker they got on DK, I think it's a great contest for a lot of people. And if that's a little too much for your bankroll, they got like dime contests and stuff you can do that you can put 20 lineups in or something. I always say MMA is an MME sport. So I make fades in 20 entry below. Yeah, I don't know. In 150, maybe like Pedro Munoz, I get none to. Like even had Herman, I'm a little scared because that Cummings really could just be that awful. Or like I said, I'm fading Zellhuber in 20 entry and below. Like that's just literally because of what I saw last time for 15 minutes. Like he has a highly touted prospect before. What if he comes out and is a whole different guy? Like I don't want to have 0 in 150 teams. So yeah, like you said, it's tough on for MME this week trying to get fades. Found 5 in 20 entry, I'll do. But yeah, get your exposures right, and you can leave money on the table in this card, no doubt about it. No favorites above -300, only 4 -200 to -300. Leave 1K on the table, you're not doing anything crazy, I don't think. So yeah, it'll be a fun card, and we get live fans, which I always love to see. The Apex did its job during the pandemic, but they got to stop going there. The fans make the sport awesome. DC will be in attendance. Excited to watch it. Kansas City gets a good one.
Yeah, I think you said the Cummings fight's a bathroom break, but I'll be honest, I'm going to have to watch these 2 geriatrics go at it.
There's no bathroom breaks for me, but if someone's taking a beer run, yeah, they can do it then. But no, I'll watch any fight. I don't care who's on it.
I got to see how these 2 guys get it on because like I said, I pulled up their pictures and I was like, how are they still fighting? How did they get pulled? Cummings looked like a homeless man. Herman looked all right. But it might have been an old picture. So, yeah, that line really scares me just off of images. So, appreciate everybody tuning in. Hopefully, you benefit from this. This is on YouTube, right?
Yep, free on YouTube. So
hit the like and subscribe. Forgot about that at the top of the show. You can find his playbook be posted here shortly. And Saber, we're going to get on them to up that ownership for. I got
my ownership on the playbook too, so you can always check that out.
We'll pull that. All right. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Best of luck this week. The fights start at 5:30 Eastern tomorrow, so be on that. And looks like contests are a little bit away from filling, so you got plenty of time to reserve and get your entries in. So best of luck, everybody. Thanks to Tidal for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Later.